Hello, I'm Trey and welcome to another of my colouring tutorials. In this tutorial I'm going to try and do a fancy effect for the fairy wings. Now I've not tried this effect before, so I'm not quite sure how it's going to work out, but it's kind of nice to show people how to do something when you don't know how it's going to work out, because things go wrong all the time. So this is a design by Jade. It's from a Fantasy Collection Volume 1, and it's a cute little fairy in a cup. And I'll just be working on the fairy wings for this tutorial. I'm going to be using Marco Renior pencils. They're the only oil-based pencil I have, and I do struggle with them a little bit, so I'm trying to use them more to get used to them. I prefer wax-based, to be honest. I tend to find they blend better. So I'm going to be working on the middle sections first. I'm going to be using pinky colours for the middle sections. I'm going to put my highlights in first with the palest pink, and I'll work on this big section here so that you can see what I'm doing a bit better. I want to make a highlighted section. A little bit towards the edge of this bubble, but not right to the edge. And then I'm going to put this paler colour of pink at the edge of this, almost like a bubble effect. This book has a few fairies in, and a lot of them have this kind of fairy wing, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with them, so I'm working that idea out on camera for everybody to watch. Hopefully find this interesting, because sometimes it's difficult to know what to do with wings when they have different sections. So I've done that there. Now I'm going to put my darkest in. I wouldn't normally do this, I normally gradiate back, but I want to see where my darkest is going to be. So I'm going to go around the edges of this wing, not to the end, just so far. And then I'm going to come from this edge, my darkest, extend down a little bit, and then I'm going to use the medium pink. I'm going to overlap that section slightly with the darkest and go towards the lightest, and I think I'm going to be extending the lightest sections here, but just feeling my way at the minute. Now I want that lighter section to stand out, so I'm going to extend the darkest up to that lighter section. Extend that lighter section a little bit more. Medium pink again into the lighter section. It's overlapping a little bit for each section. So I hope you get an idea what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create almost like an elongated bubble with a highlighted section, darker sections so that stands out, and then gradient into a lighter medium pink, and then into the lighter pink again. You know, it was an image I had in my mind, so see how this works out. So obviously I need to darken that down, so I'll go back to my darkest. Then my medium, overlapping a little bit of that dark at this edge, and overlapping a little bit into the lighter pink. And then my lightest again. Well, this needs built up a few more layers to darken in the effect. And I've noticed if I put more dark around that highlighted section, it stands out more, so I'm going to do that. Now I hope you can see what I'm trying to create. It's almost like a beveled effect with a highlight. So these turn out to look a bit like bubbles within the wing section. I'll do that again for the smaller one, and then I'll do the rest off camera because obviously you don't need to watch all of that. So just do that again. So highlight, make a highlight almost near the edge, but not right to the edge, and then put the highlight at the end of this bubble effect. My darkest, go around that highlight, extend it out from this end of the bubble, which is the opposite end of where you put your highlight. And with the medium, overlap a little bit of this darker, overlap a little bit of the lighter, so you're filling in the in-between sections. I'll go over the light again. And the dark again. And the medium again. So all of those bubbles will be done the same way, and I need to do a few more layers, and I'll come back to this. Now I'll put some more layers down, following the procedure I was doing earlier. Then I did a light blend with a blender pencil, and then I put another layer down for each of those bubbles, and just to darken it in a bit more. So I'll do the same again with this bigger one. I've already done this with the others. So I did the same, what I've just done there for all the others, another layer, and then I did one more light blend to finish them off. And that's the bubble effect. Now, actually, when you see the darker section, I can actually go darker with that, and that would make that stand out more. So I'm going to try and use a colour that I'm going to be using next. So darken it in a little bit more. Because the rest of the wings I'm going to be doing a purple colour. But just to try and darken these edges a little bit more, I'm going to use the darkest of the purple. You see if that makes it stand out more. Yeah, I think that does a little bit. So if I do that for all the other bubbles, right, so those bubbles are now finished, and I think the effect looks really interesting. They look slightly beveled, which is what I wanted. And the highlight isn't as much as if you left it white. Now you could use a pen to make it white, or you could leave it white itself, leave the paper white, and it would have been more of a contrast, but I wanted to make it more subtle. So now that I've done those bubbles, I want to colour in the rest of the wing. I'm going to do this one, this smaller, and I'm going to use the dark purple I've just used to darken in the edges of the bubbles and go around the bubbles. Right, now I'm going to just do the edges a little bit, just come in a little bit from the edges with this dark purple. I'm still using light pressure, throughout this tutorial, so I can build it up and adjust. Now there's lines here and a little bit of shading already in this project, so I'm going to use a little bit of that to do the shading for this. And along this edge I'll do the darkest. Now I normally work with my lightest first, my highlights, but because of this effect I thought it'd be best to put my darkest in first. And what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to leave gaps for putting highlights in. That's in between these bubbles and around the edges. And this section here I'll do the same, just a little bit of a dark border as such. Now I'm going to put my highlights in, and with the purples I'm using a very pale pink, and I want to do a highlight almost like in the middle sections, in between when I put my dark. Now I'm going to use a medium purple, and I'm going to work from the edges that I've just put in and lightly overlap the darkest and go a little bit into the lightest sections. And of course I'll have to adapt that and adjust that for the thinner sections. I don't want to lose all of the highlight. Now I'm going to do the darkest again and go over the edges. I think you'll be able to see a little bit of what I'm hoping to achieve. It makes the bubbles stand out because I'm putting dark around the edges of those, but hopefully I'll be able to create a little bit of a beveled effect with the rest of the wing as well. Quite sure if I'll be able to create that, but that's what I'm going for. Now I'm going to go back to the medium purple again, overlap the darker, and then overlapping a little bit into the lighter. Again, making sure I don't get rid of all of it in between the thinner sections. It's an unusual shape, so you have to adapt all the time as you're going along. So it will look unusual, but hopefully it'll look interesting. And then I'll go in with my lightest pink over the lighter sections and just slightly overlapping into the medium purple. Now that needs built up and probably extended out a little bit with the darker colours, because the fact I've used a very light pink for this section. The highlight is brighter, more brighter than, say, I did a more subtle effect with the bubbles. So I need to do both of those wings the same way, and then I'll come back to this. I've done both wings now, and I put more layers down, a good few more layers down. I did a light blend with my blender pencil, and I found the original pink I'd used was just too bright for me, too much of a contrast between the darker purples and that light purple. So I decided to go over with the next darkest pink over all of the light sections. And I've done that wing, so I'm going to do this wing. So you can see that it darkens it down a little bit and just makes that gradient between the other purples and the lighter sections a bit softer. There was nothing wrong with leaving it lighter. It just, for me, it was a little bit too light. Now that needs another blend really to finish that off, but I think at this stage you can see the effect I've been trying to achieve. So I've got a highlighted, almost beveled gradient effect for the main of the wing, but also these have become a beveled bubble effect as well. And I like that. It's turned out much better than I expected. And like I said, I had an idea in my head and I went for it. So this is the end of this tutorial. And I hope it's given any viewers ideas how they could do wings a little bit differently for fairies. Especially if you have a pattern that has, you know, almost like elongated bubbles in the wing pattern. So thank you for watching. Please do leave any comments if you have any. I'd like to read them and I'll respond as soon as I can. And I'll say bye for now and see you in the near future.